This is the second video where I talk about how I fixed my bad breath, plaque-filled, cavity-prone mouth, and what I'll be talking about in this video is what worked for me. If you haven't seen part 1, then I highly recommend checking that video out first before this video, and I'll put a link to that in the description down below. Let's jump right into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is oil pulling. Oil pulling worked for me, and I've made multiple videos documenting my process and also sharing my knowledge on oil pulling. If you want to learn more about oil pulling, I recommend checking out this video right over here. I'll link that in the description. And in a nutshell, I just do it every single day in the morning, and it has revolutionized my mouth. I'll be talking about how I use all of these techniques later on in part 4, where I talk about my oral hygiene routine that I use right now that works amazingly for me. The next thing that works really well for me is xylitol. So xylitol is a very specific sugar substitute that feeds the bacteria in your mouth, kind of like something that is equal to empty calories, and it makes it so that those bacteria in your mouth become less sticky. And it's vital to do this after a meal because that's when the bacteria is in your mouth fresh and it's looking for things to feed on. If you do it, let's say a couple of hours after you've eaten, it's already too late because that bacteria in your mouth has found substance to eat on and is already multiplying in your mouth. And this is something that I realized throughout my own experiments with xylitol. I tried it in the morning right after waking up and it didn't really do anything. So in my first video on it, I realized that, it might not work that well. But then some comments mentioned, maybe you should try it after a meal because that's when the xylitol does its magic. And I tried that with different gums, different mints, and also using the xylitol crystals, and it worked wonders after a meal. The next thing that works for me is erythritol. So erythritol doesn't work on its own for me, but I actually mix it with my oil pulling in the morning. So I add a small dose of erythritol to my oil, and it looks something like this. So this over here is coconut oil, and it's also erythritol in the bottom. And I just take a teaspoon of this, mostly fill the teaspoon with the oil and a bit of the erythritol. And I feel like my mouth feels way fresher with the erythritol than with that. I just want to give you a PSA right now that oil pulling, xylitol, and erythritol all have studies saying that they might have health downsides or risks that you need to consider. Oil pulling might cause lipoid pneumonia. Xylitol and erythritol might lead to a higher risk of stroke and heart attack. So it's important to be aware of these risks, but also know that these studies many times look at these substances from a consumption point of view, not an oral hygiene point of view. So for example, the studies looking at xylitol and erythritol, they looked at when you were consuming around 30 grams of xylitol or erythritol, and that is what led to increase in heart attack and stroke and cancer and all that jazz. But if you are putting it in your mouth, you're moving it around and you're using it for oral hygiene purposes, and then you're spitting it out, not consuming it, in my opinion, you are eliminating a lot of the risk factors by minimizing the exposure of your body to those substances. The next thing that I want to talk about is my tongue scraper. So this thing over here, this metal tongue scraper, is amazing. I used to brush my tongue with just my toothbrush, and this thing over here, I would say, does it 2 to 3 times better than a toothbrush. And a healthy tongue is a healthy mouth because a lot of the bacteria that is on your tongue will circulate in your mouth and cause more plaque, bad breath, cavities, and so on. So make sure to clean your tongue. So I'm talking about things that work for me, and the next thing that works for me really well is this metal pick over here. And what I use it for is actually in the back of my mouth where my wisdom teeth used to be. I actually check to see if there's any plaque buildup in the back over there. Since my teeth are also very tightly kind of like close together, I have a really hard time getting flossing string in between my teeth. So this tool, yet again over here, I use it and I scrape it in between my teeth. Just like how a dental clinician would do it, I kind of try to replicate that to remove any of the plaque that is built up over there if I feel like it has built up. So brushing teeth also works, obviously, right? Well, I really love my electric toothbrush and it's done wonders for me. I, interestingly enough, did an experiment where I saw how long I could go without brushing my teeth, because I had all of these other techniques on my belt, right? I had the oil pulling, I had the xylitol, and I had the erythritol. And with that experiment, I actually only lasted around 2 weeks before my teeth started to have like noticeable buildup and didn't feel that great. So yeah, you need to brush your teeth because you need to have some type of abrasiveness sometimes, because that plaque does build up and you need those bristles to break down that plaque that builds up. Toothpaste. I don't have a specific toothpaste brand or something that I always get. I usually just get whatever is on sale. And for me, toothpaste is more about that minty, fresh feeling that I get at the end of the day, where I want to then go to bed with that nice, fresh mouth. Right now I'm on some Sensodyne Pro Enamel toothpaste, but I've done Colgate, I've done like all of the other toothpastes. Whatever is on sale, I usually get that. Now, I've done a lot of experiments, I do research, and I look into these things and I try them for myself. And you can check out my other videos where I experiment with oil pulling, where I experimented with xylitol, where I experimented with erythritol, and so on, to see where I started and where I am right now. And I think it's so important to do your own experiments. You need to try things for yourself to see what works for you. This metal pick might not be for everyone, but it for sure is for me, because it hits some spots in my mouth that I could never hit before with other tools. And the only way that you find out if something works for you is to try it for yourself. Don't take anyone's word for it of this for sure works or this doesn't work at all. You need to try it for yourself and see if it works for you. Now, if you have any oral hygiene techniques that work for you, well, comment those in the comment section down below. I am always interested in what other techniques people are trying, because I just literally just find things from the comment section, from the online interwebs, and from people just talking, and I just extract that and try it for myself. And that is how I come across these things like xylitol and erythritol and so on. So share your knowledge if you have something and you're hiding it, because it might help a lot of people out there. Just a reminder that I also have 3 other videos talking about what fixed my oral hygiene, and you can find those in the description down below, or you can click on it right over here in this end screen. My name is Paul, and I'll see you in the next video. Maybe one of these. Take care.